The morning sky above Arkan Academy burned red as the twin suns rose. The training arena was filled with noise, students shouting, metal doors clanging, and the deep growl of something massive waiting in the shadows. The war beast was restless. It could smell fear in the air. Hundreds of alien students stood in formation. Each came from a warrior race, proud and tall, their scales or armor shining in the sun. They were ready for the test that decided their future, the beast trial. Every student had to face one of the great creatures and prove they were strong enough to command it. No one had ever failed without being marked as weak forever. Among the students stood a single human boy, Kale. He was shorter than most, his clothes too simple, his hands rough with grease and machine oil. He was a mechanic's son, not a fighter. He had joined the academy only because of a special exchange program. Most of the alien cadets ignored him. Others whispered that he didn't belong here. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and to them, Kale looked fragile. But Kale didn't care. He was curious, always watching, learning how things worked. He had spent the morning repairing one of the training drones, not worrying about the test. He didn't know that today would change everything. The arena gates opened and the war beast stepped out. It was huge, covered in bone-like armor and black fur that shimmered like metal. Its eyes glowed gold. It sniffed the air and the ground shook as it moved. The students fell silent. This was not a normal beast. It was a prime, one of the oldest and strongest of its kind. The head instructor, an alien with silver horns, raised a staff. Each cadet will step forward. The beast will judge your heart. If it accepts you, you may command it. If not, step aside. The first cadet, a tall lizard-like alien, marched forward proudly. The beast lowered its head, sniffed, and let out a deep growl that made the cadet stumble back. It turned away unimpressed. The next one tried to roar at it, showing power. The beast snarled and struck the ground with its claws, sending dust into the air. That student quickly ran back. One by one, they tried and failed. Some bowed, some shouted, some even attacked. None earned the beast's respect. The air grew heavy with fear and frustration. Then the instructor called, "Kale, human," stepped forward. Every head turned. Whispers filled the stands. The human? He won't last a second. He'll be eaten. Kale swallowed hard. His hands trembled, but he forced himself to walk forward. The beast watched him with glowing eyes, its breath hot and sharp in the cold air. The closer he got, the louder the creature's heartbeat seemed to echo in his mind. He stopped a few steps away. "Hey there," he said quietly. His voice was calm, almost kind. The audience murmured. No one had ever spoken to a war beast like that. The beast's golden eyes narrowed. It leaned close, sniffing him. Kale didn't move. He felt fear, yes, but also something else, a strange pull, like warmth spreading from his chest. He saw something in the beast's eyes. Pain. Loneliness. It wasn't just a monster. It was tired. Kale's heart softened. "You're not angry," he whispered. "You're just alone." Something flickered in the creature's gaze. It tilted its head slightly. The crowd waited for the roar that always came next. But it never came. Instead, the great war beast lowered itself to the ground. Slowly, carefully, it bowed its head in front of the human boy. Gasps filled the arena. The instructors froze. No one could believe what they were seeing. A war beast bowing was a sign of total respect, something that had never happened in centuries. Kale blinked, unsure what to do. He reached out a hand, gently touching the creature's snout. The beast rumbled softly, almost like a purr. The head instructor dropped his staff. "Impossible," he whispered. "The prime beast only bows to a bonded soul." "What does that mean?" another asked. "It means," said the instructor slowly, staring at Kale, "that this human carries something ancient, something we thought was lost." Kale looked around, confused. "I didn't do anything," he said. But deep inside, he could feel something stirring, a memory that wasn't his, like echoes of a time long ago. He saw flashes of humans riding alongside beasts like this one, their hearts connected, their voices joined in battle. The war beast lifted its head slightly, and in Kale's mind, a voice spoke, not in words, but in feelings. Found you? Kale stumbled back, his eyes wide. He didn't understand, but somehow it felt right. The instructor stepped forward carefully. Human, what is your name? Kale, he said softly. The instructor nodded. Then remember this, Kale. From this day, you are no longer a student. You are bonded. The crowd erupted in shock. Kale stood still, feeling the weight of the moment. The war beast bowed again, and Kale realized it wasn't him the creature respected. It was what he represented. Far above the arena, a watcher in the shadows spoke into a communicator. The old bond has returned. The voice said quietly, the humans may yet rise again. The wind howled through the arena, carrying the sound of the beast's deep, gentle rumble. Kale looked into its golden eyes and whispered, I guess we're partners now. The war beast's tail swept the ground in answer, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the bond between human and beast lived once more. The academy was never silent, but that morning, it felt like the whole place had forgotten how to breathe. Word of the war beast bowing to a human had spread like wildfire. Every corridor buzzed with whispers. Some students stared when Kale passed. Others looked away in fear. A few even hissed insults under their breath. Kale tried to ignore it, but it wasn't easy. He still didn't understand what had happened. One moment he had been a mechanic's son, fixing broken drones. The next, the most dangerous creature in the galaxy had bowed before him. Now the instructors wouldn't even let him walk alone. 2 armored guards followed him everywhere, not to protect him, but to watch him. The war beast, now called Rathar, had been moved to a special enclosure at the far edge of the academy. No one dared to go near it except Kale. Every time he entered, the great creature lowered its head and rumbled softly, like a greeting. It was strange. The beast seemed calmer around him, its golden eyes brighter, its breathing slower. Kale didn't know why, but he could feel Rathar's emotions. When the beast was angry, his own chest burned. When it was curious, his fingers tingled. And sometimes, when he closed his eyes, he could almost hear the creature's thoughts, warm, deep echoes in his mind. He sat cross-legged in front of Rathar one afternoon, sketching the beast's armor plates on a datapad. They think you're dangerous, he said quietly. But you're not, are you? Rathar's tail flicked, stirring the dust. Kale smiled a little. Yeah, I didn't think so. Behind him, the steel door hissed open. Instructor Varen entered, tall, sharp, and cold-eyed. His voice was like ice. Human, the council demands to see you. Kale stood. The council? They wish to test your claim, Varen said. If what happened yesterday is real, there will be proof. Kale followed him through long hallways until they reached the council chamber, a wide circular room with tall alien figures seated in silver chairs. They wore dark robes marked with glowing symbols. At the center was a table carved from black stone, and on it lay a small metal device shaped like a star. One of the counselors, an elder with blue skin and a crown of glassy horns, leaned forward. Human Kale, she said, when the war beast bowed, it left a mark on you. Show us your arm. Kale frowned. A mark? Show it. Varen ordered. He hesitated, then pulled up his sleeve. A faint golden light shimmered under his skin near his wrist, shaped like a curling flame. The room fell silent. It's true, whispered the elder. The bond mark. The others began speaking in low, urgent tones. Kale looked down at his arm. The mark pulsed softly, matching the rhythm of Rathar's heartbeat. He didn't understand how, but somehow they were connected. What does it mean? He asked. The elder's voice trembled slightly. It means the bond between human and beast has returned. Long ago, your kind were the beast riders, guardians of the skies. The beasts followed your will, trusted your hearts. But that power vanished ages ago, until now. Kale felt dizzy. But I'm not a warrior, he said. I'm just me. Varen's eyes narrowed. A mistake, perhaps, or something else. Before Kale could answer, the metal doors burst open. A messenger rushed in, out of breath. Counselors. Rathar is restless. It's calling for the boy. Kale's mark flared with heat. He winced. It feels angry, he said quietly. Impossible, said one of the guards. The beast is locked behind energy barriers. But Kale didn't wait. He ran from the chamber, ignoring the shouts behind him. The mark burned brighter with each step. When he reached the enclosure, the sight made him stop. Radhar was thrashing against the walls, its armor sparking against the barrier field. Its eyes were wild with fear. "Stop!" Kale shouted. "You're hurting yourself." The beast froze at his voice. Its golden eyes turned toward him, trembling. Kale pressed his hand to the barrier. "It's okay. I'm here." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the energy wall flickered and fell. Gasps echoed from the guards. Kale didn't care. He walked forward, hands still raised, until he touched Rather's snout. The mark on his wrist glowed, and a wave of warmth passed through both of them. The air around them shimmered with golden light. Kale heard Rather's voice in his mind again, clearer this time. "They tried to chain me. I called for you." Kale swallowed hard. "No one's gonna hurt you," he whispered. "I promise." The guards raised their weapons. "Step away from it." Kale turned. "Lower your guns. It's not dangerous." "Human, move!" shouted Varen, who had arrived behind them. But the weapons stayed raised. Radar growled softly, and Kale's mark burned again. "Don't," he said, shaking his head. "You're making it scared." The counselors appeared behind the glass walls, watching closely. One of them murmured, "The bond reacts to emotion. The humans will calm the creature." Varen's expression darkened. "This connection is dangerous," he said. "If the beast feels his fear, it could destroy us all." Kale looked down at his glowing arm, and then at Radhar. The beast's massive head rested beside him, calm again. "Then maybe you should stop treating it like a weapon," he said quietly. The counselors exchanged glances. The elder's voice rose again, soft but firm. "This bond cannot be ignored. The boy and the beast are one. Wherever one goes, the other must follow." Varen's jaw tightened. "Then what will you do with them?" The elder's eyes gleamed faintly. "We will test the truth of their connection. If it holds, we may have found a key to the old alliances, and perhaps a return of the lost riders." Kale looked up at her, unsure what to feel. The mark on his wrist pulsed one last time, and he felt Rather's warmth beside him. Whatever this was, he wasn't alone anymore. Kale woke before dawn, his wrist still faintly glowing from the night before. The mark had pulsed in his dreams again, images of fire, wings, and old skies where humans rode beside great beasts. When he opened his eyes, the vision faded, leaving only the quiet hum of the academy around him. He sat up on his bunk, rubbing his forehead. "What are you trying to tell me?" he whispered to the mark. It gave no answer, only a soft warmth that seemed to pulse with life. When Kale arrived at the training field that morning, Radhar was waiting. The war beast's eyes followed him, golden and calm. The guards kept their distance now, uncertain. None dared to move too close after the bond had broken the energy field. Instructor Varen appeared soon after, his sharp boots clicking against the stone. "Human," he said, "the council has granted you limited access to the old records. You are to study the history of your bond and report what you find." Kale frowned. "Old records." "The Hall of Archives," Varen said. "Few are allowed inside. Do not waste this chance." Kale nodded, uneasy but curious. The Hall of Archives was an ancient chamber beneath the academy, older than the walls themselves. It smelled of dust and old electricity. Lights flickered above long shelves filled with holographic records, memory crystals, and forgotten tools. An old archivist, a thin alien with metallic skin, greeted him. "You are the human?" she asked softly. "Yes, Kale." She tilted her head, curious. "The last bonded one entered here centuries ago. Follow me." They walked deeper into the hall until they reached a locked vault. The archivist pressed her claw against the seal, and it opened with a low hiss. Inside was a single glowing sphere resting on a pedestal. "This holds the story of the beast riders," she said. "Touch it. It will show you what was lost." Kale hesitated, then reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, the world around him vanished. He stood on a mountain under a burning red sky. Wind howled across the cliffs, and hundreds of winged beasts circled above. At their sides rode humans, men and women with bright armor and marks glowing like his own. Their laughter echoed through clouds as they soared together. A deep voice spoke beside him. They once ruled the skies with trust, not chains. Kale turned. Radhar stood beside him, though this was no dream. It felt too real. You can see this too? Kale asked. Yes, the beast rumbled. This is memory. Ours and yours. Kale watched as the image changed. The humans and beasts fought side by side against a storm of machines, strange metal creatures from beyond the stars. Together, they pushed them back until greed entered human hearts. The voice grew sad. They began to use us as weapons, not partners. The bond broke. Many beasts turned wild. The riders fell. Kale's heart ached. And after that, silence. Until you, said Radhar. The vision dissolved. Kale was back in the dim archive room, breath unsteady. The archivist watched him carefully. You saw it, she said quietly. You understand now. He nodded. The bond was never meant for control. It was trust. The archivist's eyes glimmered faintly. And yet the council still sees power, not peace. They fear what you represent. Kale's mark burned again, but not painfully this time. It felt like a warning. They'll come for us, he said. The archivist lowered her gaze. They already are. Before he could ask what she meant, the lights flickered red. Sirens wailed through the halls. A mechanical voice echoed overhead. Containment breach in Sector 4. War Beast Protocol active. Kale ran. He didn't care about the archivist's warnings or the guards shouting in the corridors. He knew exactly where he needed to go. When he burst into the training grounds, he froze. Radhar was surrounded by armed soldiers, their weapons charged. The beast roared, wings flaring wide. Stop, Kale shouted, running forward. You're scaring it. Contain the creature, barked Varen. It's unstable. It's defending itself. Kale cried. The mark on his wrist glowed brighter, answering Rather's fury. Stand down. The soldiers hesitated, but Varen didn't. He raised his energy blade. This ends now, human. Kale's instinct screamed. Before he could think, he lifted his hand toward Radhar. A surge of light erupted from the mark, connecting them like a golden thread. The ground shook. Radhar let out a roar that shook the academy's walls. But this time, it wasn't rage. It was calling. The energy storm burst outward, tossing the soldiers back. Kale stumbled but stayed upright, his palms still glowing. When the dust cleared, Radhar was crouched protectively beside him. Varen stared in disbelief. You, what have you done? Kale's chest heaved. I didn't do anything. We're just connected. The elder counselor arrived moments later, her robes fluttering. Enough, she shouted. Stop this madness. Kale turned to her, desperate. You lied to everyone. The riders weren't masters. They were friends of the beasts. The bond was built on trust, not power. The elder's eyes flickered with emotion. We know, she whispered. But the truth was buried long ago, for fear that humans would rise again. The room fell silent. Even Varen froze. Kale clenched his fists. Then it's time to unbury it. Rather's golden eyes glowed brighter. The old skies remember. The beast said in his mind, Will you fly them again? Kale took a shaky breath and nodded. If I have to. The elder looked between them, human and beast, glowing with shared fire, and saw something ancient returning. Far above, thunder rolled over the academy's towers. The age of the beast riders had begun to stir once more. The academy was no longer a place of learning. It had become a battlefield. Smoke rose from shatter halls, alarms echoed to corridors, and the sky outside burned red from the flashes of plasma fire. Kale stood at the center courtyard, his chest rising and falling fast. Radhar loomed beside him, wings half spread, eyes glowing with fierce golden light. Around them, soldiers rushed in formation, shouting orders, trying to contain what they didn't understand. This is madness, Kale whispered. They're attacking their own. Rather's deep voice echoed in his mind. Fear makes them blind. They see only the weapon, not the bond. A squad of armed drones appeared, floating overhead. Energy cannons charged, humming sharply. Kale lifted his hand instinctively, his wrist mark blazing like fire. The drones hesitated, sensors flickering in confusion. Radhar roared, unleashing a pulse of golden sound that sent them spinning out of control. The courtyard floor cracked beneath the beast's claws. Kale stumbled back, covering his head as metal debris rained down. When the dust cleared, he could hear shouts in the distance. Students, not soldiers. Some were calling his name. Kale! A young alien cadet named Mira ran toward him, her uniform torn and her face streaked with soot. They've turned on everyone. Varen ordered the capture of all humans in the academy. Kale clenched his fists. Why? They think you awakened the beast's power to destroy us, she said breathlessly. They're sealing the hangar bays. No one's getting out. Radhar let out a low growl, lowering his head beside Kale. We can break the walls, but many will die if we fight. Kale looked around. Soldiers were dragging wounded students away, and smoke filled the air. Then we don't fight to destroy, he said quietly. We fight to protect. Rather's golden eyes met his. Then we fight together. Before Kale could respond, an explosion tore through the west tower. Fire burst out the windows, sending shards of glass and metal into the air. Through the smoke, Varen appeared, his armor glowing, his weapon drawn. He looked nothing like a teacher now. His eyes burned with something cold and angry. You brought ruin, human, he shouted. You and that beast will end today. Kale stepped forward, unafraid. You're wrong. The academy was dying long before me. I just showed you the truth. Varen raised his weapon. Truth doesn't matter. Order does. He fired. The beam struck Rather's chest, sending sparks flying. The beast roared in pain, wings flaring wide. Kale's mark blazed in response. Stop, he shouted, running toward Radhar. The mark's energy surged out at him in a golden wave, forming a shield between them. The beam hit the shield and shattered like glass. The shock wave threw Varen back. He landed hard, gasping as his weapon sparked and went dark. Kale's voice trembled. You can't control everything, Varen. Not anymore. The air vibrated. The mark on his wrist began to hum, brighter and stronger than ever. Around them, other beasts, hidden deep beneath the academy, began to stir. Their distant growls echoed through the stone walls. What have you done? Varen whispered, fear flickering in his eyes. Kale looked up at the trembling towers. I didn't call them, he said. They answered. From the sky, a shadow fell across the courtyard. Massive wings unfolded, blocking the sun. Dozens of beasts, smaller than Radhar but fierce, descended through the clouds. They circled above, roaring in unison. The old bond, once broken, was returning. Students and soldiers alike froze in awe. Radhar turned his head toward Kale. They remember your kind. The riders. Kale took a deep breath and faced the soldiers. No more fighting, he shouted. Look at them. They're not monsters, they're our partners. Some soldiers hesitated, lowering their weapons. Others didn't. A few fired again, their shots striking harmlessly against the golden barrier of energy that surrounded Kale and Radhar. The beasts above roared once more, shaking the skies. Then, one by one, they landed across the academy grounds, their eyes calm, their bodies lowering in submission. The battle stopped. Silence fell heavy and unreal. Varen struggled to his feet, his armor cracked. You've doomed us all, he hissed. These creatures will never obey. Kale shook his head. They don't need to obey. They choose. Radhar stepped forward, his tail sweeping across the ground. You wanted control. You forgot trust. But the skies belong to both of us. Varen stared at the beast in disbelief. They speak. Kale's voice was quiet but firm, only to those who listened. For a moment, no one moved. Then Mira stepped out from behind Kale and dropped her weapon to the ground. He's right, she said softly. They're not our enemies. Others followed her lead. Weapons clattered to the floor one after another, echoing through the broken courtyard. Varen's eyes darted between them, desperate, furious, and then he turned and fled into the smoke. Kale watched him go, then looked up at the red sky. The mark on his wrist flickered, dimming to a soft, steady glow. The beasts were calm now, resting amid the ruins of the academy. The wind carried away the scent of smoke and fear, replacing it with something lighter, hope. Radhar lowered his head beside Kale. "It is done." "Not yet," Kale said softly, resting his hand on the beast's scales. "This is just the beginning." In the distance, the sun began to rise behind the clouds, casting gold light over the academy's ruins. For the first time in generations, the bond between humans and beasts had returned. And standing among the wreckage, a single human and his dragon were proof that the old legends had never truly died. The academy stood in silence after the long night of battle. Smoke still rose from the broken towers, and the air carried the scent of ash and rain. Students and beasts moved carefully through the ruins, helping one another, patching what was left of the great halls. Kale walked to the courtyard with slow steps, his hand resting on Rathar's warm scales. The golden mark on his wrist glowed softly, no longer bright with battle but calm, alive. The world felt new, fragile but full of promise. The other students watched him as he passed. Some bowed their heads, others simply stared. The human boy who had once been seen as a mistake had become something far greater, the bridge between two kinds of beings that had forgotten how to live together. Mira came to his side, her uniform torn and dirty, but her eyes were bright. "The beasts are staying close," she said quietly. "It's like they're waiting for something." "They're waiting for us," Kale said, looking toward the sky where more shadows move among the clouds. "They want to see what we do next." The rebuilding had only begun, but there was still fear among the people. Some of the teachers who survived the attack whispered that the old ways should return, that humans and beasts should stay apart. Others, mostly the younger ones, spoke of a new era, one where trust would grow again. Kale knew the choice would shape everything. Rathar's voice echoed softly in his mind. They will not listen to words alone. They must see the bond with their own eyes. Kale nodded. "Then we'll show them." By the next morning, the survivors gathered in the central arena, the same place where the beasts had once tested the students. The ground was cracked and the banners were torn, but the place still carried power. Kale stepped into the center, Radhar behind him like a living mountain of gold and black. The crowd fell silent. He took a deep breath. "We were taught that beasts must be controlled," he began, his voice steady. "We were told they were too dangerous to trust. But control brought fear, and fear brought war." He looked around, meeting the eyes of humans, aliens, and beasts alike. "When I came here, I was nothing, just a human boy, sent to prove what everyone already believed. But the war beast didn't destroy me. It bowed, not to my power, but to something older, the pact." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some of the elder instructors shifted uneasily. Kale continued, louder now. "The pact was never about orders or ranks. It was about respect, about two kinds of beings standing side by side. We forgot that, but the beasts didn't." Radhar stepped forward, lowering his head until his golden eyes met the crowd's. His deep, rumbling voice filled the air like thunder. "You hunted us. You feared us. Yet when your kind fell, we still came. The bond cannot be broken by fear." The people gasped. Some stepped back in shock. Others knelt instinctively. Mira stepped forward, raising her hand. "He's right," she said. "We don't need chains or cages anymore. We need trust." Kale lifted his wrist, the mark shining brighter with each heartbeat. The light spread across the arena floor, forming golden lines that curved into a symbol, the ancient seal of the pact, glowing once more after centuries of silence. The beasts across the field bowed their heads. One by one, their marks began to glow as well. A wind rose, swirling through the arena. Dust and light spun together, and suddenly a projection appeared. Not a machine, but something alive, formed of memory and will. It was the image of the first rider and his beast, the founders of the academy. Their voices echoed together, soft and clear. The bond between kind and beast is not a command, but of choice. The pack stands renewed. The light faded slowly, leaving only Kale and Radhar standing in the center. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, one by one, the students began to kneel, not in fear, but in respect. Even the teachers bowed their heads. Radhar lowered himself beside Kale, his massive body coiling protectively. They will look to you now. The beast said quietly. Will you lead them? Kale looked around, at the broken buildings, the wounded students, the beasts resting nearby. He thought of the battles, the pain, the fear. Then he looked at Radhar and smiled faintly. Not led, he said. We lead together. Days passed. The academy began to change. The walls that had once kept beasts outside were torn down. New halls were built, open, bright, and shared. Humans trained beside scaled and winged partners, learning not to command but to listen. Kale spent his days helping rebuild, guiding both species in small, quiet ways. He didn't wear armor or carry a title, but everywhere he went, others followed. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Kale and Radhar stood on the highest balcony. The wind was gentle, carrying the scent of rain and stone. Below them, laughter echoed, human and beast voices mixing together. Radhar stretched his wings, golden light shining from their edges. You have done what no one else could. You brought back balance. Kale smiled, resting his hand on the dragon scales. No, he said softly. We brought it back. For the first time in centuries, peace had returned to the academy. And in the heart of that peace stood a boy and a beast. The living proof that trust, once broken, could still be rebuilt. The pact was alive again, and its future was bright.